The surgeon who tried to save Princess Diana reveals the untold story of her final moments. What really happened in Princess Diana's final moments? The surgeon who led the fight to save her reveals a story the world was never meant to hear. What went through the minds of the medical team as they battled to save the life of a global icon? And what can these heartbreaking details teach us about her tragic end? Stay with us as we uncover the untold truth of that fateful night. From the desperate attempts to save Princess Diana to the emotional toll that still haunts those who were there. Number 1. The unfolding of tragedy. Princess Diana's arrival at Pitié-Salpêtrière Hospital. Princess Diana's tragic and sudden death might have been one of the saddest moments for all of humanity, with an estimated 2.5 billion people watching the funeral. She was loved all around the world for both her amazing personality, as well as the humanitarian efforts that she made. So when her death was announced, the whole world went into shock. In the early hours of August 31st, 1997, Princess Diana left the Hotel Ritz with her boyfriend, Dodi Fade, along with her bodyguard, Trevor Rees-Jones, and the hotel security employee, Henri Paul, who was driving the car. Later on, it was found out that she was involved in a severe car crash in Paris's Pont de l'Alma tunnel. The first emergency call was logged by Frédéric Mailliez, who was driving into the tunnel at that time. Recalling the incident, he said, 4 people, 2 of them were apparently dead, no reaction, no breathing, and the 2 others on the right side were living but in severe condition. The front passenger was screaming. He was breathing. The young lady was on her knees on the floor of the Mercedes. She had her head down. She had difficulty breathing. She needed quick assistance. He opened up further and said that he tried to give her assistance as the paparazzi gathered around the scene to document it. He talked about her condition at the scene as well, saying, "She was unconscious. Thanks to my respiratory bag, she regained a little bit more energy, but she couldn't say anything." So, it was clear that she needed medical attention instantly. A few minutes later, the police arrived at the scene, followed by the firefighters just 5 minutes later. She then suffered a cardiac arrest while being moved to an ambulance, for which she was given CPR. While Fayed was pronounced dead on the site, they took her to Pitié-Salpêtrière Hospital, traveling slowly due to concerns about Princess Diana's unstable condition. The medical team prioritized stabilizing her en route, which included a brief stop near the Gare d'Austerlitz to address a drop in her blood pressure. Number 2. Meet Dr. Monsef Dahman, the surgeon at the center of the crisis. Around 25 minutes later, they reached Pitié-Salpêtrière Hospital, where the hospital's medical team immediately assessed her. Dr. Monsef Dahman, a duty general surgeon at the time, was immediately called to treat her without being informed of her identity immediately, a practice not uncommon in high-profile emergency cases. Years later, in an interview with a news outlet, he talked about the night, saying, "I was resting in the duty room when I got a call from Bruno Rieu, the senior duty anesthetist, telling me to go to the emergency room. I wasn't told it was Lady Princess Diana, but that there'd been a serious accident involving a young woman," Dahman added. Interestingly enough, he wasn't even supposed to have worked that night. He was just a young duty general surgeon at the biggest hospital in France who specialized in treating obesity. But as fate would have it, he had to cancel his vacation plans due to his wife's pregnancy. This meant that he had to work at the hospital all summer, but never in his wildest dreams could he imagine who his patient was going to be. As the 33-year-old arrived at the emergency department, he realized how serious things were. As he walked into the room, he was informed about the identity of the person lying on the stretcher. "It only took that moment for all this unusual activity to become clear to me," he recalled. He finally understood why he had received a call from such a high-level colleague. He later on added, "For any doctor, any surgeon, it is of very great importance to be faced with such a young woman who is in this condition. But of course, even more so if she is a princess." Number 3. The extent of Princess Diana's injuries. The crash was awful, and she had suffered from some catastrophic injuries. The initial X-ray of her chest showed that she was suffering very serious internal bleeding. Internal bleeding is a serious symptom, far more dangerous than external bleeding. In case you get a cut and are visibly bleeding, you can just put some pressure on the wound to stop it. But internal bleeding is a whole different scenario. You can't immediately identify the site of injury, and it takes much more effort to stop the bleeding as well. For Princess Diana, the doctor had to undergo a thoracic drain, a procedure by which excess fluid is removed from the chest cavity. However, the bleeding didn't stop. To make up for the lost blood, she received transfusions of universally compatible O-negative blood. There, on the hospital bed, she suffered another cardiac arrest, making the situation more critical. You see, Dahman discovered that she had suffered a significant tear in her pericardium, which is the protective layer around the heart. According to the doctor, this circumstance wasn't truly exceptional and an indication of how serious the situation had become. Furthermore, her heart wasn't receiving enough blood to function properly, resulting in a heart attack. The reason was a torn pulmonary vein, and it presented huge complications because it disrupted the vital flow of oxygen-rich blood from the lungs to the heart. This condition, known as massive thoracic hemorrhaging, quickly became life-threatening. The extensive blood loss led to a drastic drop in blood pressure and severe oxygen deprivation, further complicating efforts to stabilize her. Number 4. The hour-long fight to save Princess Diana. Realizing that her condition was worsening, Professor Alain Pavy joined the room. He was France's top surgeon at the time, and he had been summoned from his bed at home. After assessing her situation, he decided that she must be moved into the operating theaters. According to Pavy, he suspected that the primary source of her internal bleeding hadn't been identified, necessitating immediate surgery. The team began with standard resuscitation efforts, including external chest compressions and defibrillation, to restart her heart. When these initial measures failed to stabilize her, an emergency thoracotomy was performed. This procedure involved surgically opening her chest to access her heart directly. During the thoracotomy, doctors identified the torn upper left pulmonary vein as the primary source of her critical bleeding. To stop the bleeding, the heart surgeon attempted to suture the torn vein. Finally, the bleeding had stopped, but things were not simple. Her heart was already very weak, and it had stopped even before the surgical exploration. Despite efforts to massage the heart directly and stabilize her circulation, her blood pressure remained dangerously low, indicating the extent of the hemorrhage. We tried electric shocks several times, and as I had done in the emergency room, cardiac massage, said the young doctor. Professor Rio had administered adrenaline, but we could not get her heart beating again. They gave their best efforts to resuscitate her, even though they knew the chances of her survival were very low. They continued to fight for over an hour, alternating between cardiac massage, blood transfusions, and surgical repair attempts. Number 5. The emotional toll on the medical team. As the clock ticked, it became more and more clear that there might be too little room for recovery. The whole incident took a toll on their mental health, as they know how much emotional weight it holds. They were dealing with the people's princess, and any misstep could end their careers. But it wasn't just about their careers. Dahman recalled, "We were aware of who she was, but our focus was on saving her life. These doctors gave it their all in an effort to save her, but they couldn't." He described the moment as heartbreaking, particularly the sight of his bloodied medical clogs, which served as a haunting reminder of the tragedy. He shared that the inability to save Princess Diana was a deeply painful experience that stayed with him long after that night. They felt like there was hope that she could be saved, but as their efforts went in vain, the atmosphere in the room changed completely. Number 6. The devastating moment of loss. The decision to stop resuscitation efforts on Princess Diana was one of the most heart-wrenching moments for the medical team at the hospital. The doctor opened up about that as well, saying, "We had people brought to Pitié-Salpêtrière who were in a very poor state, more serious than Princess Diana was when she arrived. It is one of the best centers in France for this type of trauma emergency. And we did save some of those people, which made us particularly happy and proud, but that did not happen here. We could not save her, and that affected us very much," he added. At 4 a.m., the team led by Pavy accepted that there was nothing else they could do to revive the patient. From massaging her heart to closing the ruptured vein, they had done everything in the book, and hence, they had to pronounce her dead. As the life of the beloved global icon came to an end, the entire room was speechless. The whole hospital was under this effect. Staff members were visibly emotional, aware not only of the personal tragedy, but also of the global loss this represented. Number 7. The role of the media and the global response. Outside the hospital, news began to spread, putting millions in shock and sorrow. Everyone from the media industry wanted to be the first one to report on the situation. This put great pressure on the doctors and the hospital management, as they realized that they needed a strategic approach to handle this situation. As soon as news of her accident broke, the hospital became the focal point of a global media frenzy. Reporters, photographers, and television crews surrounded the facility, desperate for updates. Moreover, officials weren't the only ones entering the hospital. The doctor reported witnessing some members of the media try to infiltrate the wards and corridors to get a statement from those who had treated her. They would disguise themselves and come inside, something that he felt was shameful. These reporters wanted more out of this tragedy, and when they saw Dahaman was wearing clog-like medical shoes that were stained with her blood, they even offered to pay him to get their hands on it. The rapid spread of the news of Princess Diana's passing sent shockwaves across the globe. Within hours, the story was on top of headlines and airwaves, as people everywhere struggled with the loss of the beloved princess. Her death was not just a royal tragedy, but a deeply personal loss for millions who admired her humanitarian work, charisma, and compassion. Number 8. Reflections on Princess Diana's legacy. Princess Diana was not only a beloved public figure, but also a patient who received medical care. According to the doctor, her death was a significant loss, not just for her family and the public, but also for the medical community, as they were unable to save her despite their best efforts. Moreover, her passing away tragically shaped the discussions around safety and philanthropy. She was truly a selfless person who had devoted her life to so many causes. So, to continue her legacy, the people felt the need to play their part. The charities she supported had lost their best worker, which obviously meant that there were initial setbacks. However, following her death, a fund named Princess Diana, Princess of Wales Memorial Fund, was established in response to public donations, amounting to more than $100 million. Through this pool of money, these charities continued to receive support so they could work for a better cause. Number 9. Myths and misunderstandings about her final moments. It's no secret that there are multiple layers of myths and misunderstandings about her final moments. One of these theories suggests that her death was not an accident, but a murder planned by the British royal family to prevent her from marrying Dodi Fayed. However, after extensive investigations, including the Operation Paget inquiry, no concrete evidence was found that supported this theory. One misconception says that she was pregnant at the time of her death. This theory was fueled by an unnamed French police source, suggesting a cover-up. However, forensics examinations showed that she was, in fact, not pregnant. The medical records and accounts from the emergency team provide a clear picture of the events following the crash. Princess Diana suffered extensive injuries, including a massive wound to the left lung and numerous broken bones. Her blood pressure was really low and barely registered on the rescue team's instruments. These medical records confirm that Princess Diana's death was the result of a tragic accident, not a conspiracy. Number 10. Lessons from the tragedy. While the medical community couldn't save her life then, things are much better today. Learning from this tragedy, the field of medicine has evolved quite a bit over the decades. Advances in medical technology now allow for the reattachment of severed limbs, suggesting that with today's technology, the outcome might have been different had Princess Diana's accident occurred. From much better investigation technology to far more precise surgical tools, hospitals are much better equipped these days. Moreover, they have also formed proper trauma responses that can handle emergencies like these in a much better way. If a celebrity were to be involved in a crash today, their chances of survival would be much higher than before. Number 11. Dr. Daman's personal closure. Back to Dr. Daman, Princess Diana might have left us that night, but it wasn't the end for him. It's something that has stuck with him ever since then for decades. So why did he choose to speak up after so many years? According to him, it was the conspiracy theories surrounding her death and what happened in the hospital that night. He felt it was important to share the truth about the medical efforts made to save her life and to address misconceptions surrounding the event. Moreover, this tragedy affected him emotionally as well. Talking about it, he said, "When it's a princess, and you follow her funeral along with billions of other people, and you had tried to save her, that obviously marks you. It marks you all your life, because it's so terrible that this beautiful person had such a tragic end." Number 12. A world forever changed. Her sons, William and Harry, got the worst of this situation. Both of them had to put on a brave face as they had to walk behind their mother's casket on the day of the funeral, which must have been really tough for them. For William, he wants to continue his mother's legacy, so he shares her lessons with his children. As for Harry, he described the day he learned of her death as a moment that changed his life forever. Her death was caused because they were trying to flee from a fleet of paparazzi, and that raised concerns about road safety. For this reason, calls were made for stricter regulations against these high-speed pursuits. Moreover, it also leads to laws that protect individuals from excessive media intrusion, aiming to balance the public's right to information with personal privacy rights. Number 13. Public reaction, then and now. The world still mourns her death, as it did all those years ago. At that time, tributes were held worldwide, and the wall outside Kensington Palace was flooded with flowers. People from all walks of life came forward to pay their respects. Today, the reactions to her anniversary are less expressive. However, this doesn't mean that people have forgotten her. Her death still resonates with the hearts of millions of people she touched. Moreover, people from the younger generation respect and praise her for raising her voice on societal issues and empowering women worldwide. Number 14. A surgeon's perspective on loss and humanity. According to the surgeon, this loss talks about the philosophy of life. He believes that losing a person that you cared for so much is a defining moment of your life. It is something that marks us for the rest of our lives. Furthermore, he expressed that we as humans should be more empathetic and compassionate towards the people around us. We don't know what the other person is going through or for how long they are going to stay with us. Number 15. Closing reflections. After listening to the doctor break his silence after decades, we have a deeper understanding of what the princess went through in her final moments. It helps us clear some of the conspiracies that surrounded her sudden death. Lastly, it's important to remember Princess Diana for who she was, and not just how she passed away. Instead of grieving her death, we should celebrate the positive changes she brought with her smile. Princess Diana was more than a conspiracy theory. Her legacy remains through her work and efforts to make this world a better place. This story is not just about loss. It's about the incredible efforts of those who fought to save a symbol of hope and compassion. It reminds us of the humanity behind the headlines. What are your thoughts on this untold story? Share your reflections in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more deep dives into history's most moving moments.